As the title of the video would suggest, we're here to look at a quick look at the Orange Valve Tester Mark II. First of all, let's get over the initial problem people have with it, which is the price. £850, and what you get is this. A computer power supply and a lead. You get a little booklet and you get a pencil. £850 might seem a bit extravagant for a small unit like this, which only checks 14 different types of valves. However, putting that in context, if you consider something like the Tube Amp Doctor bias meter, which is a plastic box, I've never seen one so I don't know, but it looks like a plastic box with a meter on the top, 4 sockets, a switch, and up to 4 leads that can come with it, and only tests a few valves, and then only in setting the bias. And that's £150 for something which has an extremely limited application. So on the whole, I don't consider this to be that extravagant, especially if you consider the potential number of sales of the unit. I mean, it's never going to be that big a seller for Orange, I don't feel. Gripes about it, I've had it now for 2 or 3 weeks, been using it, checking my valves, making sure the matched ones are matched, which unfortunately quite a few of them aren't. As discussed in the build for the ROX 15, I had several sets of supposedly matched valves which turned out to be not particularly well matched. The JJs, for instance, which you saw on the intro measurement bit, which was supposed to be matched, and then came up on here showing a 5 and a 6. So not even a very, according to this tester, very powerful pair of matched valves. So biggest gripe for me though is you pay £850 and it doesn't come with a case, a travel case, a bag to put all this stuff in. So myself, as I say, no case, and as it's supposed to be a portable tech tool, I think that's quite poor for Orange. So I bought a waterproof sealable case, which I then cut out to fit the unit and take the leads. It's quite tight. It's the smallest I could find that would accommodate the unit itself, but I now have somewhere secure to put it that I'm happy with, and I can just take it in my car if I need to go and use it off-site. Other problems I've had with it, I have 3 sets of NOS Russian EL84 equivalents. They're all brand new, never been used. They all date from the mid to late 80s, and this unit tells me every single one is worn. Now, I don't know if it's something to do with the fact that these Russian tubes are an equivalent that's not quite the equivalent of a true EL84, and thus it's measuring them slightly differently. These are supposed to be military versions and have a ability to take higher current, but as I say, 3 pairs of these, it's all shown as, although they're all matching, they're all shown as worn and quite low down the scale. So that's a bit of an intriguing thing. I also was testing a 12AT7 ECC81 from my valve stereo system, from my direct heated triode monoblocks, and it tells me that one is fine and the other one on the other monoblock has thermal runaway. Now, perhaps another gripe is that there's no technical information with the unit, so I've no idea what it actually means by thermal runaway. It just says fault code this, thermal runaway. Now, the valve in question has been in the amplifier averaging 60 to 120 hours a week of use for the last, well, I don't know, it's been in there since 2007, so quite a long time, and it's still in there. I put it back in because I don't know what thermal runaway means, I don't know what the consequences are, but if it was happy in there before, chances are that it's happy in there again. And it clocked up last week 100 hours of using the stereo and using it as a sound system for my projector down here for my home cinema. So again, not quite sure what the technical reason why it failed and what the consequences are. It would be a nice thing to have some technical documentation around the tests and what they're actually doing. In all cases where I've put EL84s in my latest build and tried them to try and find a match pair, it did show the same mismatch. So if they were wildly out, they were wildly out on the tester. If they were marginally out, they were marginally out on the tester. And if they were absolutely fine in the unit, in the amplifier, they were absolutely fine on the tester. I've tried EL34, 6v6s, a whole host of the preamp tubes, of course the EL84s. An omission I feel is the 12AY7. Oh, that's interesting. Just rubbed one of the logos off. Oh, one of the logos is coming off. Oh, well, that's not particularly helpful either. That doesn't bode well for the longevity of the screen printing, as I've just rubbed one of the ECC81, one of these C's has just disappeared off the front. Some other things which I find quite strange is the inclusion of a KT120. I don't think I've ever come across an amp that uses a KT120. And also the fact that it does have limited valve testing, and I wouldn't mind being able to test 6N7s, the GZ34s, which it does expansion modules for, and they do a 300B, but I would like a 2A3 because I have 2A3 amplifiers and quite a stock of those in. But at £195 each, I'm not sure I'd be too happy to pay nearly £600 just to try 3 more valve types. So reasonably happy with it, with a few caveats. What I will say is, up until recently, what I've been using is my trusty Sencor Mighty Mite. Now this is a vintage tester, obviously, certainly no longer in production, and obviously doesn't do valve matching in the same way that this unit does. However, putting in the EL84s that all show as worn on this unit, they're absolutely fine on here. The valve with thermal runaway tests absolutely fine on here. This is one of the 5 valve testers I've had over the last 40 years. They range from cheap and cheerful, you know, a plastic box Heathkit one that you could get when Heathkit were around, up to an I-177B military tester, which could do valve matching, but the process was extremely long-winded, and indeed it only could look at very old valves. So what I had to do is to test more modern valves. I had to buy an optional add-on box to test modern in the context of ECC 81s, 82s, 83s, those sorts of valves which weren't around when that Hickok military valve tester was in production. So that's why and that was such a pain to set up and use. So in the end, all those other valve testers gone, and this is the only one which has stood the test of time for me and has been my main tester up until the orange valve tester was purchased. And I don't intend to retire this one because I bought the orange valve tester. The orange valve tester is for matching and for using as a quick guide, but as I've said, that does seem to contradict or does seem to reject some valves which to my mind are actually perfectly fine to use. I say the thermal runaway valve, the worn EL84s that show is perfectly good on this one. So not going to retire this one. We'll use it in conjunction with this one and hopefully come up with a consensus. However, I'm just now really quite annoyed that just rubbing my finger over the logo on, or the designation for ECC 81, one of the C's has just literally rubbed off and the other one is starting to go, which does give me some concern that I paid £850 and in 5 years time there probably won't be any little logos on there for me to decide which valve I'm testing, which is annoying. But that's it for now. Reasonably well pleased. What I will talk about though, just quickly, is I've had a couple of combos up for sale on Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree, and I was contacted by a potential buyer who wanted to know when the valves were last replaced in the unit, because as far as he was concerned, if they're more than 4 years old, it needed a new set of valves. Obviously I test all my valves on my amps quite regularly, and they test fine on this one, they test fine on that one, but so now I've started advertising that the valves have been all tested when I do ads for amplifiers that I'm selling. But just to put that in context, the two A3 valves in my valve monoblocks, which I built in 2007 from an American kit, they're using pulls from a Hammond Novachord. Now the Hammond Novachord was built in the mid to late 1930s and was the first ever polyphonic synthesizer. Yeah, they actually made synthesizers very early on. Look it up online, you can hear some extracts from recordings where the synthesizer was used. Now those are pulls from the late 1930s, say 1940s, and I've been using those in my amplifier for, well, since 2007, and they're still going strong and they sound amazing. So anybody that reckons you should there is a time limit on the amount you can use a valve, they really need to be tested and only rejected when they are worn out. But even then, the caveat that I've got new valves that this shows, the orange valve tester shows as worn, that aren't worn in my opinion. So I'd say those valves over 80 years old, still going strong, really quite happy with those, and they'll stay in there until they just cease to work, and then I'll probably put another pair of modern 2A3s in to replace those, as they're nice old Sylvania 2A3s. And so that's it. Quick look at the orange valve tester, quick talk about my current valve tester, which that one's going to supplement, not replace. And the reason you want a valve tester or some way of testing valves is that if you're just going to replace them willy-nilly because you feel they're worn out, it's better to have a testing process or take them somewhere that can be tested, to make sure you're not just wasting your money. With that in mind, anybody local to Plymouth, Devon, UK, quite happy for a reasonable fee for you to pop round with your valves, your amplifier, and run them through the tester, and we'll see what we will see. Thank you.